This time, the Trump administration has imposed tariffs on China, and in response, China has immediately announced retaliatory measures. So, the theme of this video is what will happen to U.S. China relations? Although the Trump administration has only been in office for less than a month, let's talk about what's happening with China. There's a 10% additional tariff on some imported goods, and these measures seem to have already been implemented. In response, China has announced retaliatory measures, which include imposing a 15% tariff on liquefied natural gas they are buying from the U.S. They are also planning to impose a 10% tariff on crude oil, agricultural machinery, and large engine trucks. As a side note, both the U.S. and China are engaged in trade involving coal, natural gas, and oil. While they talk about CO2 reduction, it seems more like a new interest rather than a real commitment. I doubt China genuinely intends to reduce CO2 emissions, and I feel that American companies, despite their talk of CO2 reduction, have their own hidden agendas. Japan has always been called a nation of public and private faces, but it's not unique to Japan, every country does this. Information about the roots of those who control Japan's major media has come to light, thanks to the internet, revealing that these people, while legally Japanese, originally come from elsewhere. This has shaped the image that Japan is adept at using public and private faces, an image instilled by Japan's own major media. Ironically, more Japanese genuinely believe in the necessity of reducing CO2, which might make them less sensitive to the duplicity of other countries. Back to the original topic, right after the Trump administration started, tariffs were raised against China, prompting an immediate retaliatory announcement from China. According to the U.S. perspective, this isn't just about economics, it's also about the fentanyl issue. Since this topic would get flagged on YouTube, I'll discuss it in more detail in the latter part of the live broadcast on Nick and Nico, including which videos got flagged. But to sum it up briefly, it's about fentanyl, which, despite using various detour routes, originally comes from China. President Trump has long been concerned about this issue, and the lack of action from the Chinese government is seen as part of this pressure. This situation has essentially turned into a U.S. China economic war, where both sides are trying to inflict damage on each other. The interesting point here is which side suffers more damage. Looking back at the first Trump administration could provide some insight. During that time, the U.S. also imposed significant tariffs on Chinese imports, specifically in July 2018, when tariffs were raised on more than 800 items by 25%. These were related to China's Made in China 2025 plan, which outlines how China, under a planned economy, announces various long-term plans. This plan, among others, was well known in Japan as well, with many videos discussing it on YouTube. China's manufacturing was supposed to become world-leading under these plans, but the U.S. saw this as a threat and thus targeted related products with tariffs. When these tariffs were implemented, China retaliated with 25% tariffs on over 500 items, including natural gas but notably focusing on agricultural products like soybeans and corn. This was seen as an attempt to pressure Trump's voter base, American farmers, to push back against Trump's aggressive China policy. However, this didn't lead to widespread criticism of Trump within the U.S. Instead, the Trump administration provided subsidies to mitigate the impact on farmers, thwarting China's strategy. Looking at the economic effects on China from that period can give us insights into what might happen now. After the 2018 tariffs, China's PMI, Purchasing Managers Index, started frequently falling below 50, indicating economic contraction. Although China's official statistics might be manipulated, a PMI below 50 suggests that even the general public felt the economic downturn. This period also marked the beginning of discussions about unemployment in China, particularly youth unemployment, which was officially around 5%, but unofficially much higher, leading to significant social unrest and frustration among young graduates who could only find jobs like delivery for Uber Eats in Japan's context. The Chinese government has tried interventions like monetary easing, tax cuts, and infrastructure investments, but these have not directly addressed the core issues like youth unemployment, leading to ongoing social problems. Thus, the current economic situation in China